70,000 years ago, at least 6 human species existed on Earth. Neanderthals were stronger than us. They had larger brains and survived in Europe for 300,000 years. But today, in every corner of the world, only one human species remains. This was a war of extinction. The winners were our ancestors, the Sapiens. How did we do it? The answer lies in the book Sapiens. Its author, Yuval Noah Harari, uses a concept called imagined reality. These 2 words explain how humans went from trembling prey on African plains, wiping out all competitors, and reaching the top of the food chain in mere millennia. Even more chillingly, at the end of the book, Harari poses a question. We have the power to edit the code of life. How long will the human species survive? Finishing this content will redefine your understanding of human history and reveal the fictional nature of wealth, power, and class. Humans were not masters of the earth from the beginning. Very long time, our ancestors couldn't even snatch a bone. 2.5 million years ago, early humans appeared on the East African savanna. Back then, our sapiens ancestors were not as strong as chimpanzees. They were slower than gazelles and weaker than lions. Their only advantage was a slightly larger brain. But this brain was a double-edged sword. It made up only 2% to 3% of body weight, yet consumed 25% of the body's energy. What does that mean? It means our ancestors had to spend more time foraging, while reducing the development of other organs, costing us muscle power. You could try challenging a chimpanzee, could toss a grown man away like a rag doll. But our ancestors chose brains over brawn, a high-stakes trade. For 2 million years, humans were on the margins of the ecosystem. Archaeologists studying ancient human sites found a heartbreaking detail. Early human fossils, you often find bones gnawed on by other carnivores. What does that show? Our ancestors were not hunters. They waited for lions to finish eating. After the hyenas left, they would sneak over, crack the bones with stones, and suck out the marrow. Marrow was a leftover others couldn't reach, marking our place in the food chain, not hunters, but scavengers. So the question is, how does a species that survives by gnawing on bones suddenly jump to the top of the food chain and wipe out all others? The answer lies in a genetic mutation. 70,000 years ago, Harari calls it the cognitive revolution. No one knows the cause, perhaps a random genetic mutation, a virus that altered the brain. Regardless, 70,000 years ago, the sapiens' brains suddenly lit up. We learned a brand new ability: storytelling. You might say, what's so great about telling stories? Monkeys communicate, and bees transmit information too. The key difference is that sapiens can tell stories about things that don't exist. A monkey can warn its pack, watch out, a lion. But only sapiens can say, the lion is our tribe's guardian spirit. We dance during the full moon, the lion spirit will protect us. That true? Of course not, but the magic is 100 people believe that sentence. They can collaborate around that fiction. A group believing in a lion spirit can easily defeat a group of monkeys fighting for bananas. This is the human superpower. Using fictional stories to enable large-scale human cooperation. Think about it. 2 chimps need to know each other to cooperate. They must trust each other, limiting their social circle to about 150 individuals. Any more, and it falls apart. But sapiens are different. Strangers can trust each other if they believe in the same god, the same flag, or the same currency. 1,000 people can die for the same religion. 1 million people can pay taxes to the same country. Billions can accept the value of the same piece of paper. These things have one thing in common: they don't exist in the physical world. Nations are imagined, companies are imagined, human rights are imagined, and money is imagined. But believing in these fictions allows sapiens to cooperate at a scale no other species can imagine. Neanderthals had larger brains than ours. Sand were stronger, but their tribes were limited to a few dozen. 100 sapiens appeared with spears. Sheer numbers gave us the advantage. The cognitive revolution didn't make us stronger, it made us better at lying. Harari says, every leap in human history was not based on truth, but on a more effective lie. But the next question is even more sobering. Since we are so good at cooperating, since we became masters of the earth, why are we not happier? Harari gives a jarring answer. The agricultural revolution was history's biggest scam. That sounds harsh and unbelievable. 1,000 years ago, humans started domesticating wheat, rice, and corn. Textbooks tell you this is the start of civilization and progress. But Harari counters, did humans domesticate wheat, or did wheat domesticate humans? Look at the data. In the hunter-gatherer era, humans worked 3 to 4 hours a day with diverse, nutritious food. They studied nature and tracked animals, familiar with plant life. But what about the farmers of the agricultural age? Bending their backs for 12 hours a day, eating only 1 or 2 crops, with poor nutrition, spinal disease and arthritis became rampant. Archaeological evidence shows the earliest farmers were shorter than their hunter-gatherer ancestors and lived shorter lives. Why did they do it? The answer is brutal once you start. You can't stop. Hunter-gatherer populations are small, each needs a massive territory. But farming allows the same land to support 10 times more people. The problem is, population growth eats up all the surplus. So you must clear more land, grow more wheat, and raise more children. Then repeat the cycle. It is a trap with no exit. Generations later, no one remembered the freedom of the hunter-gatherer era. So everyone was tied to the land, living year after year to plow, fatten, and harvest. Harari used a unique metaphor for this. Humans thought they domesticated wheat, but actually, wheat domesticated humans. 1,000 years ago, wheat was just an inconspicuous wild grass in the Middle East. Today, it covers 25 million square kilometers of the earth. Has become one of the most successful plants on the planet. From wheat's perspective, it exploited human greed, achieved the global expansion of its own genes. Does that sound a little familiar? You caught in a similar trap today. You think you own your home, but the mortgage owns you. You think you chose your job, but your job has bound you. You think you tamed your phone, but your phone has tamed you. The logic of the agricultural revolution never disappeared. It just changed its skin. So the question arises, if humans are so easily trapped, what keeps civilization running? The answer lies in 2 of the most successful myths in history. Money and empires. First, money, the banknote in your hand, is essentially just paper. Cannot be eaten, worn, or used for shelter. Yet you are willing to trade your labor for it. The only reason is that you trust others will accept it too. Money is the greatest trust mechanism ever invented by humanity. International trade, 2 total strangers with different cultures can complete a transaction instantly if they use a shared payment system. Harari points out that money is more universal than language and more pervasive than religion. Today, almost everyone on Earth believes in money. Is the only true global consensus in human history. But money itself is neutral. Requires a larger vessel to operate, and that vessel is called an empire. What is the essence of an empire? Uses violence to unify rules and culture, to digest differences. The Qin dynasty conquered 6 states and mandated uniform writing turning constant warfare into lasting unification. The Romans conquered the Mediterranean and told everyone they were now Romans. The Spanish conquered the Americas, then required the natives to convert to Catholicism and speak Spanish. The British Empire conquered a quarter of the globe and used English. Common law and free trade to knit the world into a single whole. Empires sound cruel, and they certainly were. But Harari highlights a counterintuitive fact. Empires are the most effective fusion devices of human civilization. Your tomatoes come from the Americas and your tea from China. Your cotton clothes come from India and your numerals from the Middle East. The reason these things can circulate globally sees that empires broke boundaries and enforced standards. More interestingly, imperial subjects often grow to identify with imperial values. The Gauls, conquered by Rome, later became more protective of Roman glory than the Romans themselves. This logic still holds today. Modern globalization not require armies stationed at your doorstep. Only requires you to believe in its rules and rely on its networks. Power and money have always been 2 sides of the same coin. What should worry us most is not just the history of money and empires. Is the question Harari poses in the second half of his book. When algorithms start knowing you better than you know yourself, you still a player in the game, or just a pawn? This is the most unsettling part of the book, Harari says. Humans are not endowed with a divine soul. We are simply a collection of biochemical algorithms. You think you have free will, but you are just reacting to stimuli. Love sweets because in ancient times, sugar meant energy, so the brain evolved an algorithm where sugar equals happiness. Fear loneliness because individuals abandoned by the group didn't survive 3 days on the savannah. Chase status because high status. More mating opportunities. That rule was hard-coded into your genes. You think you are making choices, but it is actually code, written millions of years ago, making them for you. That is the core problem if humans are just algorithms. Will more efficient algorithms replace us? Today, when you open a shopping app, the algorithm knows what you want to buy better than you do. You scroll through short videos, the algorithm knows exactly what will keep you hooked. When you use navigation to drive, the algorithm decides your route. Harari says, we are handing over more and more decision-making power to algorithms because they are indeed more accurate, efficient, and objective. But here is the problem. When algorithms make all our important decisions, what are we left with? 500 years BC, humanity began asking what God was. 1500 years AD, humanity began asking what nature was. Now, algorithms are forcing us to answer the final question. What is a human? Harari doesn't provide an answer, but he plants a seed in the coming decades. Humans might possess the power to redesign themselves for the first time. Gene editing, artificial intelligence, human-machine integration may be standing at its final crossroads. After finishing Sapiens, I remained silent for a long time. The most brutal thing about Harari is not revealing the truth of history, but making you realize at the things you believe in: nations, companies, money, human rights. None of them are real. They are all fictions, but it is precisely these fictions that allow millions of strangers to cooperate in the same game. Fiction is not a lie. Fiction is the foundation of civilization. However, the problem is, who has the right to define the fictions of the next era? The past, prophets, kings, and capitalists define the rules. What about the future? When algorithms can predict your every decision, gene editing can reshape your body, and brain-machine interfaces can enhance your memory. Will the concept of human even exist then? This is not sci-fi. This is the subject of Harari's next book, Homo Deus. Sapiens helped you understand where we came from. Then Homo Deus will force you to face a more daunting question. Where are we going? And how long will we still exist? That is it for today's share. See you next time.